Welcome back to another episode of Hacks and Hobbies. Today we are joined by a powerhouse in the podcasting world, Simona Constantini. Simona is the founder and CEO of Volt Productions, where she leads a team that produces over 20 weekly shows, many of which rank in the top 30 to 100 in their respective niches. She's also the host of not one, but two popular podcasts, Happiness Happens and As It Relates to Podcasting. Her mission is to empower creators, especially female entrepreneurs, to make a meaningful impact with their voices. Simona, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty of podcast production and growth, I'd love to hear, could you share a bit about your journey? What inspired you to step into the world of podcasting and eventually start Volt Productions?
Hello, my friend. Thank you so much for having me here with you today. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, and I just love any time that you and I get to connect. So thank you for having me. I
Excellent.
started in the podcast space in 2018, and I started because I had this mission on my heart that I wanted to help one other person feel less alone in the world. And although maybe a big mission in general, I truly believe that by having just one conversation, we can impact so many different people. And I think one piece to all of that was that I was learning so much about all kinds of new topics. So of course this is when I started Happiness Happens. So I was talking a lot about fear and guilt and shame and
Mm,
joy and sadness and how all of these emotions can coexist, what they all mean, and how they essentially create the fabric of who we are as people. And so I started the podcast and I loved it. I started off with some solo episodes at first, and then I did guest interviews. And in the guest interviews, people would always ask me all the time, how did you do this? How did you take this podcast and bring it to life? How did you create it? How did you launch it? Can you teach me how? So this is probably like 2018. And yeah, end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And at the time I was like, I sure I can teach you, but I'm not going to charge you for it. I'll just help you. I'll just help you do it. So then fast forward, I started freelancing on the side. I created a Fiverr profile. I decided to freelance edit some podcasts for different clients that I had on there. And I created and I grew like quite a roster of editing clients, which was honestly amazing. But
mm,
also at the time, I was working in corporate and I worked in communications. We did some, video production. We did all kinds of, communications and all everything. And so I was still doing all this stuff on the side. I was working in corporate now at this point, and ultimately I wanted to make a transition. I wanted to leave corporate. I wanted to start my own thing, but I honestly didn't know how to do it or how to make it happen. So um the world shut down as it did in 2020.
mm,
So I ended up losing my job, which at the time I was actually excited. I was like, you know what? I was like, I've been wanting to make this change forever. Like now is the time, the universe has opened up all the possibility. Like this is amazing.
yeah.
Before I went out on my own, I had worked at this company, and it was a real estate company and focused in on building out their client experience department. So I worked there for a little bit and I did that, and it was a really great experience. So much so that when I decided to go out on my own finally in 2021, January 2021, I took a lot of the pieces that make a business successful. And one of the biggest pieces is that client experience. What is the
Mm,
experience that people are having with you as a business owner, as a colleague, as a teammate, or whatever that looks like, right? And ultimately rolled that into my production company. So I had given, the Fiverr clients that I gave them a little bit of a better deal if they came to me direct. And honestly, the business grew from there. I launched my podcast launch services in March of 2021, booked out in 72 hours, and we've never stopped since. And I've worked with some really cool people and we've done some really amazing things. So I'm excited to see where it goes, but that's sort of the inception of Volt Productions that was rebranded earlier in 2024.
wow, that's so powerful. Helping people launch their podcast and just giving them the free advice. I mean, that comes from the giver mentality, right? So
Mm.
having that experience and creating that customer experience for people to say, this is how we're going to work with you. So they kind of have a lay of the land of what they can
Mhm.
expect coming to and working with you. And I think that's a really
Exactly.
powerful thing because as consumers and as people who like to have a good experience, like for example, when you buy a brand new iPhone, and the reason we talk about it is because, well, we just had new iPhones released last
They
week,
just, yeah.
right? You have a totally hand holding experience. Just bring your old phone next to your new phone, and boom, it's
Hmm.
transferring all this stuff. So having that customer experience design, I think it's is connects that human factor with the people.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think that's a big piece that a lot of business owners miss in general, but also I think it's a piece that a lot of creators miss. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of the times when we're creating something or starting a business or whatever it is, obviously we have our own like vested interest in what we're doing, right? We're going to do the thing because we like doing it and we enjoy it. But
Yeah.
it's like when you're creating something to impact other people, yes, you want it to be something that you're proud of and something that's an extension of you and part of your possibly things that you're going through in your life or you're experiencing in your life. But I truly believe there's always a greater purpose and there's always something deeper than that, especially if you're creating a business. You're solving solution, like you're solving problems to you're giving answers to people's problems and you're giving them solutions to the things that
Hmm.
they're wondering about how to do and how to create, right? So when it comes to podcasting and podcast production, every show that is created ultimately should solve a problem in some capacity. Those are the ones that tend to perform, right? Because
Yeah.
you are selling a solution to people who are actively searching for answers. But then it's like, what is the experience that they're getting at the end of the day? What's the experience of your guest when you bring them onto your podcast? What's the experience of them before they even apply to be a guest, right? Then how does the interview itself go? And then what is the
Hmm.
after piece, right? But not only that, on the flip side, how is it for the listener? How is it for the audience, right? What does the experience look like for them? And so, I've had questions over the years of, how is your business so successful, Simona? Like, I don't understand. And it's simple. It comes back down to the people. It always does. And so
Hmm.
whether it's the clients that we're working with or whether it's podcasts we're producing or something we're teaching on or an email that we're sending out, it all is in the same sphere.
100%. 100%. It's the customer experience, is the host experience, the
Yeah.
guest experience, like all of those experiences is what makes the podcast stand up and rise into the top 100 charts in their
Exactly.
own niches, right? So, what do you think are the key factors that contribute to a podcast's growth and success? Not only is it the
Mm.
people, is it the customer service, is it the thing, but I'm sure there's more strategies than just those. I mean, those are going to enable for you to keep connected with the people. But then, what are some other strategies that our listeners can implement to grow their own podcasts?
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. There are so many different things that we can be doing when it comes to your podcast. I think the biggest piece is looking at your show and seeing how all of the other marketing pieces kind of fall into it, if you will. You're going to have the marketing of the show itself. You're going to have the branding of the show itself. You also have the marketing of your business and how the podcast fits into it at the same
Mm,
time. But you also have content, right? You have content, you have tech, you have the way it looks, the way it sounds. Audio is a really, really big one. So I can go into all of these and we can talk about all of them if you'd like to, but I really look at it as a holistic it's a
mm-hmm.
holistic web, if you will, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they all play into each other so deeply. But if you look at even just the marketing of a podcast, it's how are you marketing it? Where are you marketing it? What type of content are you creating for it, right? And then
Mm,
further than that, are you creating different types of content that are going to meet your listener where they're at, right? Not everyone watches video, not everyone reads quotes, not everyone swipes through carousels, right? So how are you creating a variety of content and looping your message in and looping your show in to everything else that you're doing as well, right? Again, like the show can hopefully, I would imagine, would become part of the overall brand. And so what is it that we're doing? How are we creating a holistic strategy with all of these pieces together? That is the differentiating piece.
I love that. The holistic view is so powerful, Not only we like holistic life and experience for ourselves, but we
Yes.
also have create a holistic experience with with your iPod, with your podcast, right? So that you can listen to it and then people enjoy the episodes as well, and you create that bond and you create that community with them.
Exactly.
Now, what's beautiful around your focus into like what you started is you wanted to focus on empowering female entrepreneurs. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
really powerful space to go. And I actually need to connect you with someone really near and dear to me who launched a program called Podcast Hers. So it's all
I have heard of
okay.
this.
So I need to connect you with her.
Mhm. Please
Anu
do.
launched this program basically during a pandemic, and
Mm.
she called it She Economy. How can
Huh.
she empower women through podcasting, through all the different mediums that are available? So she's got an amazing program going on. I would love to connect you with her. So you're focusing through your podcasting a lot of focusing a lot on empowering female entrepreneurs, especially in the parenting, wellness, and marketing space. Now, being a parent
Mm-hmm.
myself, I totally buy into that because you know, uh, I'm listening for my wife's perspective, what
Mm-hmm.
she's following, right? So it's really important to me that we're 100% backing that. What are some of the unique challenges these entrepreneurs face in the podcasting space, and how do you help them overcome these obstacles to find success?
Hmm. I find that especially working with women, there's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of,
Mm,
is this episode going to be good enough? Is this show going to be good enough? Is what I'm saying good enough?
yeah.
Is the content going to be enough? And who's going to listen? And do I look okay on video? Do I sound okay? Did I say this thing properly? How do I take this message and then, drive it home even further? And what I love working about women primarily is that there's so much power in watching them find the confidence within themselves to have that conversation, to take it that step deeper, right? To create a show that is supporting their overall brand. And so when we're working with different clients, it doesn't matter if it's within our production agency or digital products, we are there every step of the way. We are
Mm,
there to help review content, review shows, provide guidance, help and figure out and see how does the podcast fit into everything else that they're creating, right? But then more than that, how do they just develop the power within them to
mm-hmm.
just decide and just know that they can take up the space? Because I think that's a big piece at the end of the day is not a lot of women feel like they can take up this space, right? And when you do, you feel a little bit guilty about doing it. So, in doing the podcast, in creating the podcast, we are hoping to attempt to rewrite rewrite the beliefs that
Mm-hmm.
that we have about ourselves, right? To
Yeah.
rewrite the story about the things that we think we are not, can and cannot do, should or shouldn't do, and just create without expectations, without, you know, worry or without fear, but truly tapping into purpose
Mm-hmm.
instead. And I think that's really important because the more confident that you can become in yourself, the more you share a message that you know needs to be shared with other people. Because
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, like, you and I could say the exact same thing, but the way that we say it is going to be different. The people that are
Agreed.
listening are going to be different, right? And so
Yeah.
how do you put a price on what that even looks like to help other people through your message? So really, the goal at the end of the day is to make sure that women are owning their own power and their own voice so that they can continue to expand their message and make the impact that they're meant to. Because I believe that we're all meant to. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that I'm any more special than anybody else. Like I hear all the
Yeah.
time, Simona, oh, you're just so brave for doing this thing. Or you could, you did this X, Y, and Z thing. Oh my gosh, like it's so inspiring. But like it is, but also when you know that the message is bigger than the fear that's
Mm-hmm.
blocking what you're trying to do, you show up different because you
Yeah.
know that you have something important to do. So it creates this massive mindset shift. But then like, and you can probably attest to this as well with the work that you do, they all get hung up on the tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how can we
Mm-hmm.
make all of that easier for
Yeah.
them? We remove the barriers that people are using as crutches to not do
Exactly.
the thing that they want to do ultimately
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
No, you're absolutely right, and each one of us, and that's why it's important to see what power they have, see within what power they have within themselves, right?
Yeah,
Just like
exactly.
you started the podcast, right? You when you started, like, I'm just gonna start this thing, or I'm just gonna talk about what I'm feeling, and that's how we all start. You start that journey, you
Exactly.
document that journey, but as you go deeper and deeper, guess what? You uncover things about yourself that you didn't know existed,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all within us. And I
Mm,
think what you're doing with the podcast and helping them is to, again, help them realize what's already inside.
exactly. Exactly. Every creator has their medium. Some people will take to TikTok, some people will post on Facebook, some people will go on LinkedIn, some will
Mm-hmm.
create a blog, a YouTube channel, a podcast. These are just vehicles, right, to
Yes.
deliver the message at the end of the day. They're just tools to help us amplify the voice that's already within us. And so if the goal at the end of the day is to have your message be shared and be proud of what you're saying,
Yeah.
and by proxy, you are rewriting all of the stories of the things you didn't believe that you could do. Not only like it changes your own self within your own
Mm-hmm.
awareness in your own life, but it also changes the people around you, right? It changes
Yes.
the people of the lives that you touch, right? There's so much power in stepping into our own voice. And a lot of the times it's the tech is too complicated. I have nothing to say. I don't know how to do it. It just feels overwhelming. And when you take all of those pain points back and you get granular about what it is that people are actually saying is, I'm a little bit afraid that this is going to fail or nobody is
Mm-hmm.
going to care and all of that stuff. And then so you, I don't know, you just allow someone to see themselves differently and to
Yeah.
experience life differently. In any case, that's a lot of the stuff we talk about on Happiness Happens. So
I
I'm
love
like
it.
full send on this topic.
I love it, guys. Check out Happiness Happen podcast with Simona, and you're gonna learn a lot more of what we talked about here. Now, what's
Exactly.
what's what's cool is just this past weekend, I was attending a class, and now there's a verse in the Quran about oppressors. Like, so
Mm,
when we see who are oppressors, well, we are always pointing at somebody else being an oppressor. But if you think
mm.
about it, if you're keeping yourself from doing the thing that you love, guess what? We become our own oppressor.
Wow.
And it's the limited mindset, right? The what's the word? What's the actual word? Limited.
Limiting
It's not
belief?
limiting belief, right? It's a limiting belief that we have for ourselves that keeps us from taking that step, from
Mm,
failing, and then learning from it. So
mm-hmm.
that's a topic that I've been, I've hammered into my kids. Have hammered into, like, you got to keep trying. You can't just give up. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. I don't know how
Yeah.
to change the diaper. I don't know how to change, clothes for my little brother. But you haven't even tried,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we got to try. Now, one thing that I love about you is, you're helping female entrepreneurs create impactful content. Now, I'm always wondering, okay, what is an impactful content? So,
Mm.
a lot of our listeners are passionate about making impact with their content. So, what advice would you have for them when it comes to crafting episodes that truly resonate with their audience and make a lasting impact so then people keep coming back? to
Hmm.
listen to the next episode?
Three things come to mind right off the bat, and I'm trying to hold all three of them in my mind so I
I
don't
know.
forget anything. But the first thing that I want to say is making sure that you're getting into the nitty gritty quickly. You know, I like to start off my Happiness Happens podcast with a question. Like I don't typically ask them about their journey or like how did you get into this work or like anything like that. Not because it's a bad question, but just
Yeah.
because I like to keep my episodes so short and so concise. They're about 20-25 minutes.
Mm,
And what is the topic of the podcast? It is exploring happiness, right? So by that, the if you will, the thesis of each conversation, if you will, is to understand what happiness means to somebody else, right? So if you came on my Happiness Happens podcast, my first question for you is going to be, what does happiness mean to you? And you're going to
mm,
tell me what happiness means to you. And you're also going to weave in some of your story and some
yeah.
of the experience and that hard hitting moment that took you from that point of being so unhappy
Mm-hmm.
to where you are today sharing all of this information, right? So first
Amen.
of all, I would say look at your questions, look at the structure of your podcast or look at the structure of the content that you're creating. And so how do you craft those questions that are going to be hard hitting right off the bat that allow people to dive into the nitty gritty? That's part of being a good interviewer, a good host, and all of that side as well,
Yeah.
is knowing how to get to the story, right? We all want to hit that transformational piece if that's the intention of your podcast.
Yeah.
The second thing that I would say is when you are answering questions, whether you're a host or whether you're guesting on another podcast or you're creating your show, creating your questions, either prepping your guest or prepping yourself as the guest to answer the questions in 30-second sound bites, right? So a lot of the times, and I do this as well often, it's like you ask a question and someone will say, so tell me about X, Y, and Z. And you're like, oh, like that's a really good question. It's almost like in your brain, try and figure out a way to omit that or forget
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
And going into, I really loved this piece of X, Y, and Z because it totally changed my life. And this is how, right? Thinking about if you were to clip just that one segment, how is it that you are diving into the nitty gritty, like I just said before,
Mm-hmm.
right off the bat? So I think those two pieces for sure are really, really, really important. The third one is literally on the tip of my tongue. And I feel I feel like I'm forgetting it because it's so, I don't know. I just think that, so for those two for sure is something that you absolutely want to make sure that you are doing. Um, but then also, yeah, I might have to come back because I totally forget I've lost it. And I know it was good. I'm sorry.
No, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the power of conversation. You come back to
True.
it, and we all go through that experience of, oh my God, I had it right here. I'll come back to it.
And now it's gone.
So, and now it's gone. But it's fine. That train's gonna come back around, and we'll get on that train. Now,
Exactly.
as a podcaster, helping other podcasters set up not only their podcast, helping them launch their podcast, getting into top 100. Um, what advice would you give our listeners on how to set up their workspace or studio setup to maximize the
Hmm.
productivity and connection with their audiences?
That is a really good question. I don't actually think I've ever been asked that before. That's really good. I think that having okay, I think the first thing is understanding how much time it's going to actually take you to produce the show that you want to produce. I think
Mm-hmm.
that, it's not always discussed how long it can actually take to produce your podcast. So that's really
Yeah.
important. And then I think having some type of project management system that is going to help you streamline the production process of your show,
Mm-hmm.
just help you be able to set up all of your equipment and just literally click the on button and everything is set up for you. Very, I mean, your studio is incredible the way that you have it
Yeah.
set up. It's just with a click of a button, you can do so many different things.
Yeah.
So I like to take the stress out of things. I like to take the extra work out of things. So if I can create something and like set up a space and just leave it as is, that is
Mm-hmm.
always key. And then finding different pieces of tech that can help you can help you with that. Something as simple as a mic arm that you can swivel around and just move out of your way, right? Instead of
Yeah.
having it sit on your desk and you got to move it every single time. So I think there's definitely some ways that you can maximize your time and then maximize the overall output, because ultimately what most creators are wanting to focus on is the conversation that you're having. And a lot of the extra
Yes.
stuff is like, oh my gosh, like I hate that I have to do all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But find those ways to set yourself up for success. So whether it's having a guest intake form to make sure you have all of the information that you need when you sit down and you hit record, if you want to do your intro, you're introducing your guest or whatever that looks like. But then further than that, now you've just helped yourself out for your show notes because you have all
Mm-hmm.
of their links, right? And then how do you have different tools that can help you with the editing process? Within my agency, we used a
Mm-hmm.
script and I absolutely love it. And I find it so easy to edit the podcast and get it turned around in a decent amount of time, so that we're not, spending hours and hours and hours on
Mm-hmm.
doing one thing. But also, I just think that there's a level of perfectionism that is important, but also not necessary. Like, you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. You want to make sure
Yeah.
that you have a good quality product, but I don't know that I would get hung up on if this one specific thing didn't look good. So like before you and I started chatting, my photo on my backdrop fell and I was like, oh, and then I was looking at it. I was like, okay, this could probably be fine. And then I was looking at it again. I was like, this is not fine. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really quickly, like makeshifted, to make sure that that was fixed. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers the question fully, but I feel like there's a lot of different things that you can do to set yourself up for success, but it also comes down to like your own capacity and your own time right off the bat.
100%, Simona. Thank you so much for that answer. The reason that I ask
Welcome.
is because this is what I help people with, right? I help them set up
Yes.
these places so that they are prepared to be on a call and record and whatnot. Like, for example,
Mm-hmm.
just before we started our recording, I just had gotten back home from picking up the kids from school. And I didn't have to do any setup, right? I just sat down, hit record, and I'm ready to go. So it's important
Exactly.
to have minimize all of the friction from the experience. For example, when you're in the
Mm-hmm.
kitchen, you know exactly where your plates are, you know where your spoons are, so you can grab the stuff and start having your meal. And so again, setting up a studio space for success is the number one key, which is going to,
It's so key.
right?
It's
It's
so
key, and
key.
it'll get you to
Yeah.
create more content and get more
Yeah.
comfortable.
It honestly will, because I will say this before. So I moved my studio from, it was in a different room before, and I moved it to where it is right now. And of course, like there's always tweaks that you can make. And my set is definitely not like exactly what I want it to look like. And that's okay.
Hmm.
I believe in done is better than perfect. And I would rather it look,
Yes.
decent, instead of me not doing the content or not recording the piece of content, or you know what I mean? Like that to me,
Yeah.
just it's better to actually do it. But having
100%.
that said, when I first started recording with like I use like a Sony ZV-10 to record, and my mic and all that stuff, I didn't know how to connect the camera to the computer to connect, to make sure that everything was going, smoothly. So what I was
Hmm.
doing was recording onto SD cards, taking the SD cards, dropping them onto my computer. Like it was like hours and hours and hours. And I was like,
Uh
I
huh.
don't want to create any content because this is a horrible experience.
Yeah.
So then I just went back to the webcam that was on my computer and I just used
Hmm.
that webcam and I just called it a day. But I wasn't happy with the product that I was putting out. And
Yeah.
because I wasn't happy with the product that I was putting out, I didn't want to create even more content after that. Right. So your space really, really does make an impact. So if you can take a little bit of time to actually set up your space in a way that is going to be helpful and useful to you, that all you have
Hmm.
to do, like you're saying, is sit down and just turn on your power button and go from there. That's really important. And I think that's a really big gap when we're helping our clients, that people have no idea how to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and also don't always understand the importance of making it as simple as possible.
Man, I love that. Thank you so much. That
You're welcome.
I love when like-minded people talk about the importance of all of the things that we set up, because again, we want to keep you out of the recording room as much as possible. We want you to spend time
Exactly.
with your family, with your colleagues, with whoever else that you want to hang out. So spending as less time as possible inside the studio so that you can create impactful content is where you're going to enjoy and have the most fun.
I
All
totally agree with you.
Let's take a quick break, and when we get back, you're going to share 3 hacks that our audience can take away.
Perfect. You tell me.
I got it. All right, guys, welcome back to the episode. We've been talking with Simona here on the podcast, CEO and founder of Volt Productions. Now, Simona, our listeners love to walk away with actionable tips, and you've already given us a lot of them. But could you share 3 practical hacks for anyone looking to improve their podcasting game?
So, tip number 1 is going to be look at your stats and look at your numbers. A lot of the times we don't actually pay attention to the numbers and what they mean. So, what I would say is open the hosting platform that you're hosted on, pay attention to the numbers, because in the numbers is where you will find your clues. Which episodes are performing best? What does your retention rate look like on each episode? What is the completion rate as well, which is really important to pay attention to. And so take a look at your stats, take a look at your data, because that is going to just guide you on what content to create next, what next step you could take. Tip number 2 would be to get clear on the podcast that you are creating. Now, even if you already have a show that's launched, you can still use this framework that I'm about to share right now. So when we bring on a new podcast launch client, and if we do a rebrand, a strategy review, or whatever it is for a new client, I always ask them to write me a mission statement for their podcast. And in that mission statement, we're answering 3 different questions. So the first question is always, what is the podcast about? The second one is, who is it for? And the third one is, why should they care? And if you can answer all 3 of those questions, you've created a very clear line between you and your podcast and what it is that you're actually creating and putting out there, which eventually will drive content, will drive episodes, will drive your intro, your outro, your trailer, your show description, your graphics, your marketing, your cover art, and it'll help you keep it aligned to the bigger goal and the bigger vision. So I always say start out with that mission statement is so important. And then the third thing I'm going to share with you today is making sure that you're actually promoting your podcast episodes. You can do this in so many different ways. You can obviously do this through social media content, creating clips, creating quotes, creating, graphics for your stories and all that. But where you can go a little bit of a step further is being and showcasing the brand behind the podcast. That is how you tap into the podcasts that are doing the best, if you will, the ones that are ranking the charts, the ones that people are listening to, is so important, right? They're creating brands behind the show. People are getting to know the person that's sitting on the other side of the mic. So make sure that you are showing up as the expert, the thought leader, the person, the go-to person in your space, even if it's not podcast related, right?
Yeah.
So creating those posts on LinkedIn, going into your stories and sharing about what you're working on, answering questions in different Facebook groups. All of those pieces matter because they're ultimately what's creating your own web, the web of you, if you will.
Yeah.
So those would be my 3 tips that I would love to leave with our listener today.
My God, Simona, those are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those 3 hacks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, now the fun part comes. This is the fun 6 questions towards the end of the episode. And, people don't know what they're missing out if they didn't, listen through the episode.
I love it.
All right, so number 1, what is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
I wish I got into painting.
And you have a beautiful painting behind you.
I didn't make it.
I know you.
I just think that there's it's just like so creative. And I love, my dad used to paint just for fun when we were younger. Well, actually, I think before we were even born, to be honest with you. And I love the idea of putting different colors and textures and whatever. But my perfectionist brain sometimes needs to it's not good enough, or it's not pretty enough, or this color, or I put this color and now it looks bad. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm like, forget it. It's fine. I just go back to technology.
I'm in the
But no
same
painting for
boat.
sure.
I always wanted to color and paint as well, and I have like
Mm,
sets of pencils and color pencils, but I never
yeah.
get to do it because I'm a perfectionist. But I've done design, enough s- stuff around other things that is like, okay, I
Yep.
kind of fulfill that bucket of activity. Our next
Good.
question: what did you want to be when you were a child?
You know, I honestly I don't really know like when I was a child what I wanted to be. I can't really remember. Um, I know that there was a brief stint where I was like, oh, like it would be really cool to be a princess, like living in an actual castle. Um,
I
but
love
what I
that.
wanted to be when I was growing up, like when I got older, I wanted to be a lawyer, a criminal lawyer,
Nice.
criminal defense lawyer. Yeah.
Was that inspired by Legally Blonde?
Maybe a little bit that paired with suits. I did my first year I'm in Canada, so it's like university, but in the States it's
Yeah.
college. I did my first year in criminology and I sat in on a trial and it was a kidnapping and I was like, absolutely not. I was like, this is not for
I'm
me.
like,
I was
no,
like,
I'm
it's
not
not for
doing
me.
that.
But
Uh,
I'm pretty strong-willed, so I think I would have been a good lawyer, but whatever.
I like it. I like it. Well, that takes us to the next question.
Mm.
What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Okay, so I'm not a huge movie buff, which like not great, but that's okay. Favorite TV show, I am a like Virgin River and Sweet Magnolias kind of girl. Like those are my favorite. And Hallmark movies, Christmas
Mm-hmm.
movies, love story movies, like send them all my way. Send me all your recommendations because those are my favorite.
I love that. I love that. So cool. Next question. Again, it's movie related. If you could
Okay.
play a character in any movie or a TV show, what would it be?
Oh, honestly, Harvey Specter from Suits,
Nice.
but like the woman version.
But the woman version, exactly.
But the woman version.
That'd be an interesting one.
Yeah. I
I'm
love
trying to
that show. That's
think.
like one of my favorite shows is Suits. And
I'm trying to think
Scandal
if
and like
there you
oh
go.
all those
Scandal
shows.
was the one I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about. Yeah.
Look at us. We're on the same brainwave. Yeah, like all of those shows, Suits, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder. Like I have like two very distinct. It's like either the Sweet Magnolias or Scandal. And one or the other.
I love it. I don't know if this might go in your check out this show. It's called I just watched it. It's called Bad Monkey on
Okay.
Apple TV Plus.
Okay.
And it's got a little criminal vibe comedy with Vince
Ooh.
Vaughn. Vince Vaughn playing this detective. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
another show called Resident Alien, where this alien lands in Colorado and he basically kills the human and takes his form. And it's like a comedy show,
That sounds
and
amazing.
it's hilarious. And then they're of course solving crime because he makes friends with the ME, the medical
That's
examiner, because
hilarious.
she's all what with the nurse or whatever, and he's a doctor at this. He's like, because I'm an alien, I can learn everything about a human being in 3 minutes searching the internet. Like,
Oh my God, that's amazing. And like
it's
in his brain.
hilarious.
I have a secret like love affair with Alien everything. I don't
Oh
tell
my
this to a
god.
lot of people because a lot of people think they're probably like nuts, but like I'm obsessed. Like I want if it's a nice alien, like for it to come and sit in my
Hmm.
house and give me all of the tea about everything that's happening out there. But like don't take me with you. I don't want to go with you, but
Well, then you're gonna love this show. Absolutely. I mean, it's number one.
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's played by Andy. Can't remember his last name, but he was in the show Fireflies. He was in that show. He's been in
Okay. Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
different sci-fi shows. Blonde guy, hilarious. So you're
Awesome.
gonna love that. I'm also all about aliens. I mean, the movie Avatar was one of my favorite when they go to Pandora. I mean, that was pretty
Mm.
awesome.
I've never
But
actually seen it. Can you believe that?
you have to go see it because come on, it's an
I'm
alien movie.
I
But
know, I know.
did you know since you talk about aliens, and we have another question that we might bring up aliens. Did you know that human beings did not originate on planet Earth?
No, I did not know that.
So if you've read the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
there's a I don't know if there's a story of this in the Bible, but there's a story of this in the Quran where God created Adam from clay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then he asked the angels to bow down to Adam.
Hmm.
But Satan is the one who's like, no, I'm made of fire. I'm better than him. I'm not going to bow down. So then he kicked him out of heaven. So human beings were created in heaven.
Huh.
So Adam and Eve were in heaven,
Huh.
and then they were put on earth when they disobeyed and ate the forbidden fruit. So we are
That's
aliens.
incredible. That is incredible and also not at all surprising because when someone passes away, now we're going off on a whole tangent, but like when someone passes away and people say
Yeah,
like rest in peace and like you're in a better place and all of that, it's
yeah,
like that actually could be a better place. Like it's pretty
yeah.
crazy over here. It's
It
pretty
is.
crazy down here.
It is pretty crazy over here. But yeah, we could go on a whole different tangent because
Oh, don't get me started.
I talk about like quantum physics and quantum entanglement. Like
Mm,
when somebody's thinking
quantum
about you.
leaping.
Yeah,
Yep.
all of those stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
talk about aliens. Who is your favorite superhero?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to go left field. And I really, really, really liked that show, The Boys, on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked the girl character. I can't remember what her name is, but she's
Yeah,
just like she's
she's
part
a
of
good.
this like group. Yeah, she's like got her powers and the
Yeah,
whole nine yards, but she's just like, I don't really know about this. And like she's pretty strong-willed and like I
yeah.
like it. I can't remember her name, but I would say her.
She was a good guy
She
compared
was
to
a
all
good
the
girl.
other
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
are being the bad guys. Just
Exactly. And
hilarious.
I think, the world needs a little more good guys.
We do need.
Yeah,
It's easy to go bad. Our last
exactly.
question: if you were a board game, what would it be?
Ooh, I would be sorry because I'm Canadian and I say sorry all the time.
Oh my god, it's hilarious. I know. I've never
Oh,
played that game, or maybe I
well,
have.
I'm
How
gonna bring
does
it. Are you going
how
to
do you play that
Are you
game?
going to Podfest? I'll bring it.
I am going to Podfest.
Perfect. I'm
Yeah.
gonna bring
Come on,
it.
how can we miss? How can you miss Podfest?
I know it's one of my favorite events of the
It's
year.
one of my favorites. All right, Simona, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Your insights
Thank you.
into podcasting and content creation are incredibly valuable. Let me pause there. Simona, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me today. I've loved this with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Talking about podcasting and content creation, incredibly valuable. Thank you for your insights. But before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Hmm. Yes. The only thing that is between you and the podcast that you want to create is the story that you're telling yourself that you either can't do it or you're not enough or you're not deserving or you're not worthy. And so I just want you to reconsider, rewrite that story. And also just know that if anybody else can do it, like anyone else who's done it in the way that you want to do it, for example, like those big creators, that the ones that we all think about when it comes to podcasting, everyone pretty much started in a similar spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
No podcaster who's made it massively in podcasting, was likely a podcaster before. A lot of stuff takes time and it takes practice and it takes intention. And when you do something for the love of it instead of for what it could potentially like bring you, as long as you're always creating from purpose, I think that's always so important. That and there's also something I say on my podcast, Happiness Happens at the end of every episode. And I'll share it with you here too for whoever it lands for. And it's happiness happens when you're least expecting it. We really never know in life where the next blessing or miracle is going to come from. So just stay open to the possibility.
I love it, Simona. Thank you so much again. And
You're
we'll
welcome.
share the places where people can connect with you. Our listeners who want to connect with you, learn more about you, we'll have the links in the show notes. What's your favorite place to connect with?
I am on Instagram mostly or LinkedIn. I like those two platforms the most.
All right, perfect. Simona, thank you so much again for coming onto the podcast. And to our listeners, until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making an impact with your voice.